Hi everyone and welcome to the latest edition of NCHC Between the Boards. I'm your host Greg Ankers. On tonight's show we'll recap all of the action over the last 2 weeks of NCHC play. We'll also take you back in time and look at the history of the Minnesota Duluth hockey program, and we'll let you know which league players have been invited to the U.S. Junior National Training Camp a little later on. But we begin with our Spotlight series, and it took center stage in St. Cloud 2 weeks ago when North Dakota went to St. Cloud. In the last 12 meetings of this series, neither team has garnered a sweep. The last sweep in this series in St. Cloud was back in 2001. In the opener on Friday night, after a scoreless first, some scoring chances start to take shape in the second. For North Dakota, Brendan O'Donnell on the far circle with the initial attempt. Johnny Simonson trying to poke it in, but Charlie Lindgren there for the save. Later in the period, Johnny Brodzinski point blank with a shot, bounces right to Joey Bennick, but his rebound is denied off the post to keep things a scoreless game. In the second, Drake Kajula and Michael Parks on the doorstep, can't stuff that one in, and we stay 0-0. Still in the second, St. Cloud State working a power play. Ethan Prow from the point puts the Huskies on the board for a 1-0 lead. Still in the second, another St. Cloud opportunity. Joe Raycamp gonna get the shot. Zane McIntyre pins it for the save there and to preserve the 1-0 game at that point. Then Raycamp to Andrew Prochnow. Another big save here by McIntyre. He had 31 saves on the night. Still in the second, the puck bounces here to Drake Kajula. He puts it back down on the ice and scores through the 5-hole to tie things up at a goal apiece. Then in the third, back comes St. Cloud State. Brodzinski bouncing one off the defender in front and in for a 2-1 St. Cloud lead. Later in the period, then the icing on the cake. Bennick, the sweet pass to Brodzinski, his second of the night, as St. Cloud State takes the opener on home ice, winning it 3-1. In the series finale on Saturday, goals would be plentiful early on. Under 3 minutes in, Austin Pagansky with the shot, can't sweep it in, but Trevor Olson is there for the rebound and a 1-0 UND lead. Just over a minute later, UND back on the attack. Brendan O'Donnell skating in, shoots and fires home the wrister for a 2-0 North Dakota lead. Less than a minute after that, St. Cloud State gets their skates underneath themselves. Patrick Russell fires home the wrister there to make it a 2-1 game. Later in the first, UND looking for more. Colton St. Clair with a couple great opportunities here, but Charlie Lindgren is there to shut the door on that and keep it a 2-1 game. Then later, still in the first period, UND working a 3-on-none, and Lindgren plays it perfectly, denying Michael Parks and company the goal there. It'd be 2-1 UND after the first. In the second, Troy Stetcher with a shot for North Dakota, pad save, but it comes right to Olson. This on his 21st birthday, gets his second goal, and it's a 3-1 UND lead. Later in the period, Joey Bennick goes short side to make it a 3-2 game. And in the third, St. Cloud State trying to get the equalizer. Raycamp going to get the shot, but McIntyre again closes the door on this one with the glove save there. Then in the closing seconds, St. Cloud State with the extra attacker on, but McIntyre again comes up with another save. He had 27 on this night as UND wins it 3-2 and salvages a split on the road. Here's some players' reaction following the game.
It's a tough building to win in, and they're going to be greasy if you're going to win on the road, especially here in St. Cloud. So those kind of defensive games are going to be what you need to win games. And like you said, we battled up a lot better than last night, and that's obviously a big part of the win.
It's tough losing Friday night, and then your backs are kind of against the wall. For us to get a win here, it's a tough place to play. I think that's it's a good step for our group, and I think we can continue that on when we have to go play on other hard venues throughout the league.
Straight ahead on the program, we'll dive back into the highlights from the weekend of November 21st and 22nd, including a red-hot Minnesota Duluth team, winners of 5 straight as they travel to Omaha. That's next here on NCHC Between the Boards. Welcome back to the show. We mentioned a moment ago that Minnesota Duluth entered their weekend series on November 21st and 22nd red hot, winners of 5 straight, including a sweep at St. Cloud State and a sweep over previously number 1 Minnesota as the Bulldogs traveled to Omaha for this weekend series. After a scoreless first period, Omaha would break through middle of the second. Great pass up ahead from Brian Cooper to Tyler Vessel, who drops it for Justin Parizek on the power play, and it's 1-0 Omaha. The Mavericks would add to their lead just a little over a minute later. David Pope, working a 2-on-1, decides to take this one himself, fires home the wrister for a 2-0 Mavericks lead. That would wake up the Bulldogs, though, in the third, down 2-1. The rush is on. Andy Walensky in the slot ties things up at 2 goals apiece. 5 minutes after that, Cal Dukowski going to get the puck for the Bulldogs, and he will fire it home from the near dot. That made it 3-2 Minnesota Duluth. They go on to win by that score, opening the series on Friday night. Saturday night, Minnesota Duluth would continue their scoring trend. Just 4:40 into the first, Kyle Osterberg going to get the goal, sliding it underneath Ryan Massa here for a 1-0 Duluth lead. Omaha would respond, though. Tyler Vessel going to get the equalizer to tie things up at a goal apiece. Then still in the first, Tyler Vessel working behind the net, going to find Austin Ortega out in front. That makes it 2-1 Omaha after 1. In the second, the Mavericks build their lead on the breakaway. Jake Gensel gets the feed, and he will go backhand for the winner here. That made it 3-1 Omaha. They would tack on one more to win 4-1 on Saturday night and salvage the all-important split. In other conference action, a contrast of styles clashed in Oxford as the number 1 NCHC team Miami played host to a series against a Western Michigan team with just 1 win in their last 4 games. Miami would open the scoring in this one, just 3:20 in on the power play. Blake Coleman going backhand over Lucas Hafner for a 1-0 Miami lead just like that, but scoring would be at a premium. After that, it was a defensive showdown in the third, still 1-0. Here's a Sean Corrali versus Lucas Hafner moment. Hafner gets the better end of this one, but Miami takes the opener, hanging on to win by the 1-0 final score. On Saturday night, a little more scoring to be had after a scoreless first. 3:41 into the second, Will Kessel with the slap shot here, and Western Michigan grabs their first lead of the weekend, leading it 1-0. Miami, though, would come back in a big way on the power play. Anthony Lewis through traffic ties things up at 1 apiece. The Redhawks would score 3 more in the period. In the third, down 4-1, Frederick Tiffles trying to get the Broncos back in it on the power play, gets one here, but Miami goes on to win and gets the sweep 5-2 to final. Wisconsin traveling to Colorado College. In the first, Aaron Harstead on the power play, going to bury the biscuit here for CC as the Tigers grab a 1-0 lead. It would be 2-0 CC in the second. Wisconsin trying to claw back. Morgan Zulnick going to get the goal to cut the deficit to 2-1, but it was too much CC on this night. In the third, up 4-1. Working a 2-on-1, and Cody Bradley going to take this one himself to make it 5-1. CC wins it. 5-2 would be the final. On the weekend then, Colorado College would take to the road and drive across town to take on Air Force. A minute 39 into this one, Charlie Taft going to get the go-ahead goal here for Colorado College and make it a 1-0 game early on. Air Force would answer back, though, peppering Chase Perry here. Max Hartner going to get credit for the goal as Air Force ties things up at a goal apiece. In the second, it was 2-1 Air Force, and Chad Demers with a great centering feed here to Ben Carey. Air Force takes this one, winning it 3-1 would be the final. Air Force opened up the weekend starting out in Denver on Friday night. In the first, Denver opens the scoring. Larkin Jacobson going to get the goal here for a 1-0 Denver lead. In the second, it was the Quentin Shore show. Shore opens the period, 6:49 into it, with a shorthanded goal here, making it 2-0 Denver. Shore would then add an even strength goal, and then 2 minutes after that, on the power play, Shore again, the natural hat trick. In the third, great puck movement, Zach LaRaza gets it. Denver wins it 7-0 the final. On Saturday night then, Denver hosting the Wisconsin Badgers. It was 1-0 Denver after 40 seconds into the second. Joseph LeBate ties it up at 1 for the Badgers, but later in the period, Quentin Shore on the power play gets the goal to make it 2-1. Then in the third, great effort to get the puck here from Daniel Doremus to Danton Heinen to make it 3-1 Pioneers. And they would hang on. Adam Rockwood would add one late in the third for Wisconsin, but Denver gets the win. 3-2 would be the final. Coming up next, we'll scoot ahead and take a look at highlights from November 28th and 29th, and it includes a coach returning to face his former team. That's next on NCHC Between the Boards. Welcome back to the show. The last time the University of North Dakota won a national championship, Dean Blaze was the leader of the program. Blaze is now in his 6th season at Omaha. He brought his Mavericks into Grand Forks last weekend for a big-time weekend series. The teams would skate to a scoreless tie after the first. In the second, though, midway through, Gage Osmus gets North Dakota on the goal with the wrister from the point here to make it 1-0 UND. Less than a minute after that, though, Omaha responds. Tyler Vessel out in front gets the feed and ties things up at a goal apiece. Late in the second now, the Mavs grab the lead. Justin Parizek with the goal there for a 2-0 UNO lead. In the third, though, North Dakota would get the equalizer just 3 minutes in. Nick Schmaltz out in front gets the goal there. His first game back from injury, ties things up at 2. This one would go all the way to a shootout. Dominic Zombo, the third skater in for the Mavs, makes that one count as they get the bonus point in the standings as this one ends in a 2-2 draw. North Dakota would look to put more pressure early on Ryan Massa in the first on Saturday night. Just 2 minutes in, Jordan Schmaltz on the power play from the slot makes it 1-0 UND. Later in the period, Mark McMillan, the backhander, gets by Massa here, and just like that, it's 2-0 North Dakota after 1 in the second. Back comes Omaha. Jake Randolph with the goal here to cut the deficit in half to make it 2-1. But 3 minutes after that, skating shorthanded, UND's NCAA leading 8th shorthanded goal of the year, Steph Patton, makes it 3-1 North Dakota. In the third, the Mavs trying to come back. Grant Gallo with the goal here out in front to make it 3-2, but UND gets the win on Saturday night by the final of 3-2. In non-conference action, Bob Motzko brought his St. Cloud State Huskies up to in-state foe Bemidji State for a weekend series. In the first, Jerry Fitzgerald leaves it for his brother Miles, and that makes it 1-0 Bemidji. In the second, though, St. Cloud State responds. There's a turnover, and then it's all Jimmy Murray at the other end. He slides this one in to tie things up at a goal apiece. Just less than a minute after that, though, the Beavers bounce back. Nate Aarons gets the goal to put Bemidji State back on top 2-1, but St. Cloud State would answer back in a big way after that. Tied at 3 in the third. The puck bounces out to Tim Daly. He buries it for the 4-3 lead. St. Cloud would tack on 2 more as they take the series opener, winning it on Friday night by the final score of 6-3. Saturday night, Joey Bennick would open the scoring for St. Cloud to make it 1-0, but Bemidji State scores 4 unanswered as they salvage the split on home ice. 4-1 the final on Saturday. Western Michigan took part in the Shillelagh tournament hosted by Notre Dame. They opened against Ohio State. In the first, already up 1-0, Frederick Tiffles makes it 2-0 Broncos in a great weekend series for Andy Murray's bunch. In the second, on the power play, Ohio State answers back to make it 2-1 with the goal from Anthony Greco. But in the third, Kenny Morrison with this great blast from the blue line calls for it and slaps it in. That made it 4-2 Western. They would tack on 2 more as they win the opener 6-2 on Friday. On Saturday, they would play against defending national champ Union in the championship of this tournament. On the power play, Nolan Laporte gets the Broncos on the board for a 1-0 lead. They would build a 4-0 lead into the second. Roman Amarato gets the power play goal for Union to make it a 4-1 game, but Laporte would answer with a power play goal less than a minute after that. Then, later in the second, back on the power play, it's Laporte again with the goal to make it 6-1 Western. Laporte with the hat trick in this one, and Western Michigan wins the Shillelagh tournament, winning this one 8-2 the final. It's one of the most historic programs in the NCHC. Coming up next, we'll take a look back in time at the history and the highlights of the Minnesota Duluth hockey program. That's straight ahead. You're watching NCHC Between the Boards. Welcome back to the show. Back on December 10th in 1930, the school then known as Duluth State Teachers College decided to launch an ice hockey program. It took 81 years for the institution to win its first national championship, but the University of Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs are still one of the most historic schools within the NCHC. Here's a look back at some highlights of the history of the program.
From the score! Red hole! Red hole! Schwab breaks in. Here he goes. Back in, tries to score! Schwab! And Duluth takes a 1-0 lead. Controlled by Kalemba, behind the net, shot over, scores! Auburn has tied it up at 4.
The 2004 Hobie Baker Memorial Award winner, Junior Lassard.
They did it! They are going to the NCAA Finals! The Bulldogs pull off an upset!
Change done, back on top. Into the corner, looking for Schmidt, trying to find somebody in front. They're working from behind the net.
As you saw, it was Kyle Schmidt who scored the game winner in overtime against Michigan to propel Minnesota Duluth to a 3-2 win in their first championship in school history. Coming up next, we'll let you know which NCHC players have been invited to the U.S. National Junior Training Camp. That's next and more here on NCHC Between the Boards. Welcome back. Let's get you caught up on all the news and notes from around the league over the past couple weeks, and we begin with a trio of league players that have been invited to the U.S. Junior National Training Camp. They include Denver sophomore defenseman Will Butcher, Miami sophomore forward Anthony Lewis, and North Dakota freshman forward Nick Schmaltz. They will join the other invitees for training camp December 16th through the 19th in Boston. The final roster for the squad will be announced on December 24th. Back on the week of November 17th, these were your NCHC Bauer Players of the Week. Offensively, what a performance by Quentin Shore of Denver. He had a natural hat trick versus Air Force that included a shorthanded goal, an even strength goal, and a power play goal, well deserved for Shore. Defensively, it was Denver's Will Butcher who had a goal and 2 assists on the weekend. He led a penalty kill that went 6-for-7. Rookie honors went to Tyler Vessel of Omaha for his 3 points that included a goal and 2 assists in a split versus Minnesota Duluth. And two-time winner now on the goaltender honors go to Jay Williams of Miami. He had a 1.00 goals allowed average, stopping 46 of 48 shots versus Western Michigan. For the week of November 24th, offensive honors belong to Justin Kovacs of Western Michigan. That will be a theme here. He had 7 assists and was named the most outstanding player of the Shillelagh tournament. His teammate, Kenny Morrison, earns defensive honors for a goal and 2 assists and a +3 rating at the Shillelagh tournament. And the rookie honors also belong to a Bronco. Frederick Tiffels had 3 goals, 1 assist, and a +3 rating in that same tournament. Goaltender of the Week honors belong to Zane McIntyre of North Dakota. He had a 1.92 goals allowed average and a .938 save percentage versus Omaha, and he had 60 saves on 64 shots for that weekend. And that leads us to our monthly honors for the month of November. Player of the month goes to North Dakota junior forward Drake Kajula. Kajula registered 13 points in 9 games for the month, averaging 1.44 points per game. That's good for third nationally and tops in the NCHC. The NCHC Rookie of the Month for November, it goes to Casimir Kaskasuo, freshman goaltender from Minnesota Duluth. He registered a .933 save percentage and a 1.71 goals against average, going 6-1 for the month. Checking in on the polls, the USCHO.com poll has 4 NCHC teams in the top 10, including a new number 1 once again. North Dakota takes over the top spot, earning 29 first place votes. Miami checks in at 4. Minnesota Duluth earned 3 first place votes. They are sitting number 8, followed by Denver and Omaha at 10 and 12. The USA Today poll, North Dakota checks in at number 1 there with 28 of 34 possible first place votes, followed by Miami at 5, Minnesota Duluth at 9, Denver and Omaha check in at 11 and 13 respectively. The current NCHC standings look like this, quite a race atop between 3 teams, Miami, North Dakota, and Minnesota Duluth, all within 3 points of each other. As we look at upcoming games this weekend on December 5th and 6th, it's a top 15 showdown between Omaha and Miami. Colorado College visits Minnesota Duluth. In non-conference action, Denver visits Cornell, and Lake Superior State travels to number 1 ranked North Dakota. We want to remind you, of course, our next broadcast of new material will take place on Friday, December 19th. We hope to see you then. Until then, enjoy all the games, and we'll see you next time on NCHC Between the Boards.